I had few people today that left comments asking what I thought about the latest LinusTechTips video where he tried to solder a HDMI connector on a Sony camera. One thing that made me laugh was this part right here. Let me show you. Lost it to the 9th dimension. He was trying to solder the connector and it fell and he lost it. That's it. Gone. Gone to the 9th dimension. No coming back. I'm not sure if he ever found that connector, but that's how I spent half of my life. I grab a component with a tweezer and then it snaps. It goes one way to the 9th dimension and never come back. Never. I'm not sure if Linus ever found that connector that snapped, but Linus is not a micro soldering expert. You cannot ask me what I think about Linus and how he soldered that connector. He's not a micro soldering expert. He's good at what he does in review and tech, and I looked up to Linus a lot of times when buying monitors, video cards. I looked up to his reviews and he's very good at what he does, but he's not a micro soldering expert. And the funny part is he aligned the connector in between the pads. The pins on the connector were aligned in between the pads. And even if he tried, he would not have been able to align them in between the pads, but that's how it happened. And the other thing is he's trying to solder without a microscope. I cannot even solder a connector without a microscope. It's very difficult and it's very hard to align those pins. You are dealing with microscopic pins and trying to do a job without a microscope is very difficult. As far as the tools go, I would not solder a connector with a hot air station. I would do it with a soldering iron. Just clean the solder off the pads, put the connector, and just go over the pins one by one with your soldering iron. And that would be a lot easier because if you expose the connector to hot air, it's very likely that that connector will burn. And the other way of doing it is if you apply heat from bottom of the board. You first apply solder on the pads, you pre-apply solder on the pads, and then you expose the board to heat from the bottom. Once the board gets saturated with heat and it reaches the melting temperature of leaded solder, then solder is going to melt and the connector will flow down over the solder. That's one way of doing it. And you can also use your hot air station and apply heat from the top. You can do that also, but it takes more experience and it takes a lot of practice not to burn that connector. Just as you see me do with PlayStation HDMI connectors or Xbox HDMI connectors, I pre-apply solder on the pads, I put the connector, and then I apply heat directly on the connector, and I reflow that connector without burning the plastic on the connector. I have a video coming up soldering a PlayStation 5 HDMI connector that Sony was not able to work on. I think I will upload this video first, and then I'll upload the PS5 video. I'm not sure how many days it took him to do the job that he did, and he also ended up damaging the Flux cable, which is something that happens to all of us many times, even up to this day. I'm working on something and I end up damaging something else, whether it's a Flux cable or a battery connector or whatever the case may be. Things like this can happen, and hot air is a very dangerous tool. You have to know where the hot air is pointing, how much heat, how far you should be from that component or from the connector, when to pull off, when to apply heat. It takes a lot of experience and a lot of practice, and it's not something that you can go and watch one video and think that you can do it. It's easier said than done. You can look at how it's done on YouTube. You can see me do it on YouTube and it looks so easy. When you try to do it, you will find out how difficult that is to do it. But practice is the mother of all skills. So I left at the losing part of that connector, and that's what I think about that video. Let's read some of the comments on this video referencing NorthridgeFix. For anyone interested in doing this type of micro soldering, I highly recommend watching videos from NorthridgeFix on YouTube. He does an absolutely brilliant job every time, and he always shares his tips and tricks with us. Thank you very much, Alex. I really appreciate it. Let's search another NorthridgeFix comment. NorthridgeFix viewers be cringing right now. I agree. NorthridgeFix is your friend. I am. You should have flew NorthridgeFix out to your site, set up all the equipment he wanted, and paid him to fix it. Why wasn't low melt solder used? See NorthridgeFix. 100%. Low melt solder would have done the job a lot easier. To desolder the connector and not to solder the connector. Now I feel bad. That's how lightly I took his videos at NorthridgeFix. Next time, do not take my video slightly, or I'll be after you. I bet the guy at NorthridgeFix would fall off his chair if he saw this. I almost did. And that's me. I left a comment referencing the 9th dimension, but how is my comment gonna show in between 2,600 comments? At NorthridgeFix, thank you. I can hear Alex from NorthridgeFix saying Hiroshima while inspecting the PCB. 100%. For reference, you need to know about Alex from NorthridgeFix. You are creating a Hiroshima, a nightmare for Alex. I agree. Should have just sent it to NorthFix. Thank you very much. Look like you could have used the help of NorthridgeFix. At NorthridgeFix, pound NorthridgeFix. Great. Missed opportunity to collab with NorthridgeFix. NorthridgeFix not happy. It's all right, I got over it. NorthridgeFix, maybe he's the guy who can fix this. Should have called NorthridgeFix. Send the camera to NorthridgeFix. He's the man for this type of work. And on and on and on and on and on. I'm flattered to how everybody thinks about me. I'm really flattered. Thank you very much. And thank you for referencing NorthridgeFix.